at 6:04. I will begin with the roll call. Please acknowledge you're here. Ms. Cece?
Here.
Ms. Gibbs?
Here.
Mr. Goodwin?
Here.
Ms. Prock?
Here.
Ms. Remsen?
Here.
Ms. Penn Williams? Mr. Wells? Ms. Palladino Christopher?
Present.
Okay. The next order of business would be to accept the minutes of our previous meeting on the 12th. Hopefully you've had a chance to review them. I need a motion to approve them.
I'll make that motion. Okay. Jody.
And somebody to second it.
I'll second.
Okay, show of hands, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? None? Thank you. Minutes are approved. I'd like to talk quickly before Preeti shows us an updated version, and that is to discuss our public meeting, and we're going to be switching some things around here. So normally this would be the time where the public participation within our normal meeting would occur. During the public hearing meeting, that is going to occur as a Q&A after the presentation of our option. Is there anybody here that is in disagreement with that? It just makes sense. Okay.
I'm sorry, Ken, could you just repeat that?
Sure. So usually within organized meetings, the public participation happens now in our meeting. During the public hearing, the question and answers will occur after our presentation of what we've come up with. And what I'd also like to do is, once we get through this evening and look at where we're at, we're going to submit this to the public out through social media so that they've had some time to view it prior to our public hearing. Any objections to that from any committee member?
Not at all.
Great.
No.
Okay, so from this point, Preeti, if you could, I guess I should preface that I hope all of you received Stuart's email earlier today where there was some minor adjustments he requested concerning the pocket voting places. And Preeti and Sam were able to look at those and make some minor adjustments. So Preeti, if you could share all of that with us, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Let me quickly share my screen. All right. Can you see my screen? So
Yes.
this is the PowerPoint that I sent this afternoon. And the changes that we pretty much kept what you approved on 9/12. And today Stuart came up with a suggestion that we evaluated it. And we wanted to check if those numbers would be fine. So they did work out. So here, let me run through the PowerPoint. And once again, here, this is the statute that Ken wanted in bigger format. So we put it in a bigger font. And you have already seen that, so I'm not going to go over all this. Population, current districts, and the maximum deviation currently is 18.86. So then we give you the statistics and we give you total population by race for each district. And then what we do is we show you the minority districts like A and B, and then C, D, and E are majority non-Hispanic white. Then we show you the information by total population and the same situation. So A and B, even when you look at the voting age population, they are minority majority districts. And then C, D, and E are non-Hispanic white majority districts. So this is what we started with. And then after we did the changes, and you can see that there are 4 proposed changes here. And then there are some other changes because of the taxing districts and the census blocks. So we are going to go look at each change. And of course, first, let's look at the numbers. And here I want to emphasize that we have maintained the minority districts. And so you can see that A and B continue to be minority districts, minority majority districts, and C, D, and E are majority non-Hispanic white districts. And the same thing continues here when we look at the voting age population. So change 1, as we talked about and we discussed in our previous meeting, is the same, and we have described it over here. And then if you look at change 2, that is this little area, which has about 330 people, and a voting age population of 105. And this is from A, it goes to E. Then 3 here, this goes from E to D. And we have described the streets that are bounding it. And the total population, we have given that as well. And also the majority non-Hispanic white population in each of these changes.
Preeti,
Yes, sir.
if you could go, yeah, Eleanor is misspelled on this slide, just so you know.
Okay, we'll make
Yeah,
sure.
it's just a fix, that's all.
Hey, and while we're talking about that, when you reference a population of 351, that's not the total population though, is it?
It is the total population and
Or the total
voting-
population of the number of people affected by the change?
the total population in this area. So yeah, you can say total population. of
Oh,
the
wow,
area.
it really is. Okay.
Yeah, and the voting age population is 293.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll make a note of fixing this slide. Okay, then we move on to change number 4. And here, once again, we define the streets. And if any one of you think, or compared to what we had talked about before, we had an additional block. And then when we looked at the numbers, there was no need. So this is a nice area that we have listed all the streets which are there. And the total population, voting age population, so we have that. So these are the 4 changes. And then we have the other changes. And the other changes that we talked about is change number 5, where we have these blocks are big. And so there is this little pocket that we have. And so these are changes 5 and 6, but this is because the taxing districts and the census blocks cannot be aligned, so. Now this is something which was added this afternoon. So if you recall, before we had this block, we were putting it in District B. And because of that, there was this little dwarf precinct, as Stuart says. So he said, what if we try to put them the other way around, and we won't have the dwarf precinct, and yet we will be following the census blocks. So this change and this little block, which we had before, so we took Stuart's suggestions and we incorporated that. So these changes will avoid any additional dwarf precincts. So it was a good suggestion and we were able to incorporate it. And then there is this change that we never really highlighted it, but then we thought it's good for the public to know. But apparently this area is an industrial area, really not much population, so that is what it is. And these are the changes. One thing I think I forgot to highlight was, after looking at Stuart's suggestions, our maximum deviation initially, we started with the 3.66, but with these changes, it came up to 3.75, which is still really good.
And still below, I think it was a 10% threshold, right?
10% is the bar. So this is still good. So this is what we have. And now, if you would like, I can show you the map that I had attached, which is a zoomable map and which the public should also be able to see it. So here, these same changes are marked over here, so the public can zoom in, see the streets. And so there was a question that what is this red line? So that is the taxing district line that we have in the legend. So that is the taxing district, but it shows you clearly where the changes are. It has the streets marked in it. And of course, we have a legend here that the community can see as to what is what. So what you can see is the red lines are the taxing districts. The black and white dotted line is your current council districts. Then we have the Board of Education members in like a green push pin, and we have the council districts in a red push pin. And here, these are the voting locations. And if you notice that we have this in a different kind of crosshatch, so that you can see that these are full blocks and how we are moving them just to avoid the dwarf precincts. And so we have that. And if you look at these, that these are blocks which are different, and we could not include, if we include the whole block in District A, it would be too much population. So we have all that in the legend, and we have the streets, we have all the information. And of course, once you decide that all these changes are good, then we can, of course, change the heading, and then this material can go for public here.
Fritzy, can I ask a question? Can you go down to the district, the B, the change down in B that you said was, I think, mostly down, keep going down the bottom, the lower one that
Yeah.
you had highlighted, that one,
Yeah.
number 7.
Yes.
I'm just looking to see, would that include the new South Norwalk School? And would that be a polling place? And if that, is that going into B, or is that going into
It's going
A?
into B. See
Okay.
this, yeah, it's going into B. And initially what we had done was we had put it in E, but then there would have been this question of a little precinct that would have been an issue.
So
So,
it
go-
was in B and it's staying in B. Is that?
see, part of it up till here was in B, but because this is a whole block, then it was kind of like a block not matching up. So, if you look at it, then this part is being picked up by B. It's currently in E.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So
All right.
just so I'm clear, then the crosshatching represents the census block.
Yes.
And so then the part from number 7 and where that black line is down, that's the part that's moving up to B. Is that right?
That's good. That is correct.
Okay.
Preeti, when
Yes.
this map gets to the public, when it's published, can it indicate on the top of this that it is a zoomable map? So when somebody's looking at it and they want to look closely, yes, there's an indicator on the left side of the map, but if we can put on the top of it zoomable map, so
Sure.
they know that. And the other thing is, I will anticipate that the questions that occur during our public hearing, the Q&A, that you will be able to revert to the map as people are talking about individual streets, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just noticing this because the area down where it's Outer Road, and Dock Road. So that in the solid purple, that is E, and then above it is going to be B.
Yes.
Okay, because that's Village Creek. So you're splitting Village Creek.
And once again, this is a suggestion from Stuart from this afternoon, and we wanted to see it, evaluate it, and see if it would work number-wise, and it does. So you as a committee can say, no, I want this to be back in E, or I want this the way it was. So that is on the table. It's your decision.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I'm just saying, if we were trying not to split up neighborhood associations, that is a direct split of a actually confined neighborhood association. So I don't know how everybody else feels about that.
Jody, let me do one thing. Let me open up the actual working map where I can see where the neighborhood is and kind of confirm
Right.
like which neighborhood is being split.
Okay.
And
So-
Jody, that really zooms in at the end of Dock Road, correct?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And the rock,
Yeah. Split Rock. Yeah.
right.
And what I do want to say is this crosshatch is just for you to see, but when we do it for the public, we'll have one shading so that there is no confusion. Okay?
So if you look at Split Rock and you look at Dock, those are part of what Jody is talking about of the Village Creek Association. Can we incorporate those two roads?
Okay, let me see. Yeah, this is Village
Yeah, there's
Creek.
dotted line there.
Yeah, this is, yeah, okay, let me see where the extents are. If I wanted to. And bear with me for a minute. I just want to make sure that I can see the extents of it. So
Right.
here we go. Let's check it out. Where is Village Creek? So yeah, Village Creek is no, that's not it. Okay, let's check.
If you utilize that blue line that's in there, I think that covers it. Yep,
Yeah,
all of
that
that.
is Village Creek.
Right.
Yeah. So what we can do is we can go back and say that this particular change, because it breaks Village Creek, we should keep it in E and that way the neighborhood is together. So if I were to look at this, we can just bring it in E, and I'm just doing some live movements here just for you to see. And that way we would not run into splitting a neighborhood.
But would it
But-
create,
But that creates the dwarf district that Stuart was.
Right,
speaking
but
about,
what
right?
we're
Yeah.
trying to do, Preeti, is just segregate Village Creek back into District E, not that whole block.
See, but then can we get back to the same thing that we don't,
Right.
hang on for a minute, let me see how many people are there or what is the situation. Okay, so let's see.
Your point is that the
Yes.
census block is the limiting factor.
Yeah,
And we
Right.
don't need to split it, so there are 182 people living in here. So I think, based on what Jody said, it may be a good idea for it to remain in E.
Right,
And that way we are not splitting any neighborhood.
And I tend to be in agreement with that, just because, again, I really like that neighborhood continuity, and I just think doing it the other way eliminates that now
Yeah.
in District B and E.
Mm-hmm.
and Harbor View and Village Creek, they are together really a community that we should consider.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But let me ask you all this. I mean, to Stuart's point, if we're talking 182 people in that whole large area, or at least large on the screen here, that, you know, the reality is that let's take, it looks like less than half of that is now going to, so we'll say 50 to 60 people will now require us, if we do that, to set up polling.
Mm-hmm.
I do wanna just clarify one thing. That goes back to the split districts and polling. I attended the ROVAC conferences the last few days, and so I was fortunate to have the ear of the attorneys from the Secretary of State's office. And I did confirm that split precincts can absolutely share one moderator as well as other staffing. The only separate staffing that's needed is a checker table. As long as it's held in the same room, the resources can all be shared, as well as the moderator and the assistant moderator, along with all of the other positions. And even if it's a separate ballot. So I did want to just make mention of that.
I mean, I think it's a good compromise, in my opinion, that we make 8 work the way Stuart, at least we reduce 1 dwarf precinct there, and we keep 7 the way we had it originally. Especially because we do not want to introduce any neighborhood splits.
Right,
on the
I think Diane CC has her hand up.
oh, go ahead, Diane.
Hi, everybody. I have kind of what may be a dumb question here, but I gotta throw it out just so it's clear in my mind. When we originally were talking about, one of the goals was to try to keep neighborhoods intact, especially where there was a legitimate, say, neighborhood association. When I look at the changes you were just making between B and E, where Village Creek is, if we were to do it the way that you modified it under Stewart's plan, where you have a split of what's recognized as the Village Creek Association. Wouldn't that mean then that Village Creek is actually then represented by, so now if we're looking at the Common Council, the change that this would make, wouldn't they be represented by district council people too from B and from E?
Yes.
And then because you have the split between B and E, so you'd have a neighborhood that would actually have more representation, or am I misunderstanding that? Because this all ties back to the council district, right?
Yes,
Yeah, that's correct.
that is correct.
So-
So,
So under Stewart's plan, you would have multiple,
yeah, this is
district-
Stewart's plan, yeah.
right? So if I put on a neighborhood association hat, would that be something that a neighborhood might consider to be advantageous in terms of having
Two represent,
multiple? Mhm.
there are both
Would you-
pros and cons of that, Diana. We have seen that some neighborhood associations like that, and some take it as a negative that their neighborhood is being split.
Yeah, I'm curious just if any of my fellow committee members wanted to comment on that, if the pros and cons. I'm kind of thinking that whatever the issues might be or opportunities in a neighborhood, that if you tend to have more people who are responsible and accountable, then that could be a good thing and not something, maybe someone else sees it as a burden that then just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah, I don't see it, as a burden, but I don't see it as the potential benefit that I think you're getting at, which is that now suddenly if I'm in Village Creek, I have both B and E fighting for my best interests.
Right.
Because if in that case, again, when we're talking about the little sliver of above that line, like it does not look densely populated.
Industrial.
Right, I
Yeah.
see what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that since there could be some benefit to it, I don't see any downside to having had it that way. Because what would be the downside on Stewart's? If you're talking about that you split the neighborhood, you're still talking about, or you're saying then that people would be confused as to say, who their quote rep is,
I'm less concerned, again, as I look at it, some of those are really large buildings that I'm assuming we said are industrial, right? So I'm less concerned about that. And more just honestly, I was good with what Stuart had proposed and what we saw on here. But if it sounds like there's a thought that and I think this is what Diana was getting at, that if anything, keeping the area south of the black line there, in District
E.
E, that she felt like that was the right move, as opposed to moving those 100 and some odd people up to District B.
I mean,
And it's my understanding they're currently in E, so
They are.
that shouldn't change any voting districts.
right, they are
If we-
currently in
If we
E.
go by that
Right.
line, Preeti, that black line that goes horizontally across, yeah, that. Can we do that? Or is that breaking up a census
I got the
area,
impression this
or-
whole blue line is a
Is
block.
a census block.
and we can't split a
you're-
census block?
Nope,
But there's-
that's
I
rule
don't think
number
there's a-
one.
Reason to, because honestly, like everything outside of Village Creek within that blue section is almost all industrial.
Yeah.
So
You
it
know,
really won't
the-
make a difference.
It's not going to make a difference at all.
Right.
You've got WB Mason over there. Lawrence Street has houses on that side. And then on the other side on Meadow is just all industrial.
And Jody is our expert because she lives there.
Yeah, I mean, so really, it's not going to make a difference one way or another. I would think there's probably 7 houses on Lawrence Street that are on that side of the street. So I don't know. I feel strongly about keeping neighborhoods together. I don't live in Village Creek, so it's not gonna, affect me. But if we made such a strong effort to keep other neighborhoods intact in other parts of the city, then I think that we should do the same here. I just don't think that that's really, it does cause confusion. I live on Narragansett Avenue. Narragansett Avenue is split literally in half, and it's very confusing with my neighbors. I'm in District B. They're in but people across the street from me are in District E. So when you're splitting a neighborhood like that, it does get confusing, especially since they've been in District E all of this time.
And if we put it in District E, that's how we had it.
Mhm.
So it's going to be like that. And this area, like mean, it's industrial, there is some marshland. And so really, yeah.
Is there anyone from District B on the call that could speak to how they feel about that change? Whether,
Well,
but yeah.
I'm in District B.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. No, I mean,
And you're good with it. So there we
I am
go.
perfectly fine
That's
with
the
it. Yeah,
answer.
I mean, yeah, yes, I would prefer to keep a neighborhood together
That's
than
awesome.
bring
Cool.
more people into District B. I just think, it's what's the right thing to do for
Cool.
for that community. Mhm.
Love it.
3D, can I just verify what we just did, putting that putting that in E, that's how it currently is.
That's
Yeah.
correct. See,
That's what it currently is. So there's
yeah,
no effect of a change to B.
this neighborhood. Yeah.
And
And
that's what it was prior. Sorry, Ken. That's what it was prior to Ken making that. I mean, not Ken. Stuart making that change.
Yeah.
So, I kind of, I don't think it was necessary.
Sounds good. Let's keep it like this then.
Okay.
in
Thank you all.
District E.
Yeah, so I like that too. So but then we're back to needing that dwarf precinct, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and it sounds like while that's a pain in the ass, at the end of the
Right.
day, it's a cost consideration, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
But
and
Diana,
I think there's a lot of
isn't this what it already was? So I
correct,
don't
Oh, before earlier
understand,
today. Yeah.
correct.
but this is what it was, what it is currently, right now.
Yes,
This is what it is.
I
So
believe so.
this, I can't see this having a pocket district here.
No.
Maybe I'm not understanding it, but if it's what it is now, it's
No,
not going to change
it's
voting
not.
places.
It's not. It's not.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, I completely agree. I think it's really important for us to make sure that people feel well represented, and I think
Right.
that is the keeping the neighborhoods together. So I think it makes sense. Yes.
Now it's just this that this one seems to be okay because I checked. I don't think there is any neighborhood association issue here, but I'll double check to see if there is any neighborhood. See, there is no neighborhood here, so yeah, we have Flax Hill Association, but this is not a part of any neighborhood, so we are not doing anything here. So yeah, that should be good.
So Rockland is being pulled into B, is that correct?
No, this is
No,
being
it's
pulled
A.
into E.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So if you're all okay with these changes, then I will go back and put this back into the map and do what the edits that just this edit and everything else is fine. And all the changes would be in just one hash. So the community can see. And we can do that, and then you should have a plan.
Yeah, it
Preeti,
needs to be as user-friendly as possible, Preeti, so if somebody through social media is looking at this, that they can understand it.
Sure.
Okay, great.
Hey, Preeti, I have a question. It's the orange sliver in the upper right of District A. Yeah. And I think you had said that that is all industrial. It just looks like a weird carve out, and I just want to make
Yeah.
sure that it, and I'm not saying we should change it. I believe this was one of Stuart's recommendations that we agreed with and thought made sense. I guess I just want to be able, if in next week's meeting, people have questions like, why is this weird little triangle in here? Be
Yeah.
able to explain it and defend why we chose to put that the way we did.
Sure. So here, and once again, we looked at the streets and the Science Road and this I-95 turnpike here.
Mhm.
This seems like, according to Stuart, is primarily.
Oh, that's where the
That's the
dump, I'm sorry,
transfer
we're not allowed to
station.
call it the dump. It's the Waste Transfer Center.
And King Industries is
Yes,
there.
yes.
Yeah.
And
And
stepping stones,
Scalfani's,
and I
right.
got it.
Yeah. So he was okay with it. He had no issues there.
Got it.
Good.
Okay, that's easy to explain. Thank you.
Okay.
So, Preeti, if we can get this to us by sometime tomorrow, then we can authorize the IT department to publish this, as long as everybody here is in agreement with it. And I guess we should, based on what we've looked at, let's all decide if we're in agreement with it or if there's any opposed to it. So I guess I'm gonna ask each individual person, are you approving this? So I'm gonna go just like a roll call here. Miss Cece?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with this. I may need to just take a quick look at, the A to C again with the hash marks in there. We kind of flew by that. I just want to make sure that the changes that we did last week are the ones that are still reflected there, but,
Okay,
and
Sure.
again, even that wasn't a
yeah,
big deal.
let's do that. So,
Yeah. So here, and let me make sure that the hashes are on. So let me.
And then my other question is about communicating this. Okay, yep. So I thought what we said last week was that we were going to drop down to, from Morgan and go south. But we're going all the way over to Park Hill.
2 streets.
So what's coming in?
So here we have Westport Avenue, we come to North Ave, and then we go State Highway 53 or East Avenue. Then we come to Moody's
Mhm.
Lane,
Right,
and then we come down by the river, and then to, yeah.
right,
and
okay,
then
so
we
right,
keep the line,
yep.
yeah.
So when we put that chunk in, though, I thought that we took some more out of north of there that was actually in A originally.
This is what
Or-
we had agreed upon last time. You all
Okay.
had agreed upon.
Okay.
Is there an adjustment you feel needs to be made, Diane?
Well, I thought that when we had added in the other streets that were south, just above the highway, that we dropped out some of the streets, that were further north. That didn't seem to make sense to have to come over to C, but, Honestly, we talked about so many iterations on this one here that, I'm probably confused. I think I'm okay here because I know that no matter what we did, we couldn't do anything to accommodate
Right.
what Stuart was talking about. But then I just want to make sure that we still had the benefit I thought that we had in terms of bringing in those southern streets, Eversley, what do you call it? Not Eversley, Hendricks and Elton Court, right above the highway on the east side of the west side of East Avenue. Yep. All right, so I'm okay with that. I would think Diana has a sanity check too, but if Diana's okay with that, the other question that I have is on communication of this. Did we ever go back then to say that somehow there would be an alpha listing of the streets that had a change so people could see alphabetically from and to on the street list, or we dropped that off too?
Preeti, I don't know if we have the feasibility. The reason I had asked Diane about having a zoomable map is that somebody could look exactly where they live and see if they're affected.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that fills the need there too. Someone could just go on the map and take a look, and I just thought it might be easier just to have a list and you just check if your street's not on there. You may not even look. My final question is when we do go to post this, what are we saying the communication is back into the committee or into who? Because we're not going to ask. I mean, people should be able to make comments and ask questions and submit suggestions ahead of time, just like regular communication. Is that going into staff?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
We're going to publish this prior to the meeting. If there's questions prior to the meeting, we will address them at the meeting.
I mean, for people to submit comments prior to the hearing. Those
Right.
are going to go into Esther or Irene.
Yes, it's my understanding. And we probably will be making adjustments based on some of the questions that occur at our.
Actually, that's another question somebody asked me as well. The when this thing gets advanced to the council, it gets advanced through ordinance, I imagine, coming into council on the agenda. Do you expect, Ken, that there would be amendments on the fly that get incorporated at council? Or is the expectation that any modification sends it back to committee?
I would think the latter, right, Ken? Like,
Yeah.
like willy-nilly making modifications in the meeting.
No, I don't think that's gonna work. It's let's hear what
It
everybody has
happens
to
all the
say.
time, just
and
for the
then
record.
And then
After
the
public
commission
hearings.
adjusts that. Because besides what we're doing here with this option, we also need to talk about the fact that this wasn't done in 100 years. And we need to set up a process so that we're reviewing, not necessarily us, but there's an ordinance that there's a reappointment advisory committee that happens approximately in 2034 to accommodate for the 2035 census, or it may have to be right after the 2035, the next census. Everybody on board with that, understanding what I'm talking about, so that this doesn't drop off?
Yeah, we
come up with a
can't keep going through
procedure?
this. And between now and then, there's the impetus to look at the census blocks and
Correct.
or the other sort of state level initiatives that people have
Right.
proposed here.
And we know areas of our town or city, the populations are going to be changing. So it's essential that we look at this on a regular basis based on the census. Does so at this point, Preeti, you're going to put this together for us. We will review it, and then I'm going to ask that Preeti's email that you acknowledge it to me that you're okay with it so that we can publish it through social media. And it'll be posted on with the meeting agenda.
I think the committee should really, I mean, I don't know if there's any room for. I understand that there is a deadline, but I feel like a 5-day window before the public hearing is really tight for such an important matter.
Diana, I have verified today, we can't, we would have to issue another legal notice to delay it.
Okay. Okay.
And
not
at
saying we
the end of the
can't do
day,
it.
if it gives you any like consolation, Diana, I guess part of what I'm thinking is what we identified, I think, in last week's meeting is this affects less than 1,800 people overall. I'm going off of memory, so but I see Preeti nodding. So we're talking about 1,800 people, which is a pretty small part of the population that might actually be affected or care about this. So not to say what we're not doing is not important, but I would just be concerned about, overstating the importance of this
Oh,
to,
yeah, no question.
Yeah.
I'm all for this entire process whole, absolutely. But I just do feel that, it, as a registrar of voters, it's a very important matter and, it does impact voters directly. And at the end of the day, even if it's just, one voter or 2 voters or 3 voters that feel, that their voices, weren't heard and they didn't have an opportunity to, speak on it. I just,
that's fair. And I'm just saying if less than 20% of the people are actually voting, then 80% of the people don't care about what we do here. So
Sure.
We can
Anybody else?
also hold the public comment open beyond the public hearing as well.
oh, that's right,
So
right?
depending on when the cycle of council and ordinances to advance this, and I don't have that in front of me, Ken, forgive me, but depending on when that cycle is, you can always hold open for public comment for, another few days. So because a lot of people will have only been seeing this obviously for the first time and they might need the, kind of the weekend to digest it, even if it's just until that Monday or Tuesday, then it would be written comments only into staff. But I don't know if that butts up against a Tuesday. What the next step was for council.
Just a reminder that our public hearing is in person. It is in the council chambers. We know that Preeti and Sam will not be there, but everybody else I hope can be at council chambers.
Can we at least use them as a phone a friend?
Right, right.
Well, actually, you're talking about they're not going to be in there, but who's presenting this? Are they presenting via Zoom or
Yeah,
you are?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anybody else have any other concerns before we adjourn for this evening? We'll all look forward to Preeti or Sam's email tomorrow. And please reply to me that you approve it or don't approve it. It would be best to reply all so everybody knows. And then
Wait, when you
we
say
can-
that though, Ken, I think before you had mentioned doing a round robin here on
Yeah,
the call.
that's what I was
Can we
just
do
gonna
that and knock it out?
I'm fine with that.
Well, you're sorry, you can come back to me. I had questions before because I was going to pass, but I will not pass now. I can
I'm sorry,
say,
Diane, I'm not trying to.
I'm yes. I'm a yes.
All right,
Yeah, it would be nice to do it now so that, we know that this is all and not wait for another approval later in the day.
sure. So I vote yes. I feel like we put a lot of work into this and I think addressed different concerns that we've heard from different folks on the committee over the past couple of months, and I'm good with all the changes that have been made and good with the plan as proposed.
Great,
I'm
I'm gonna
good
go,
as well.
I'm gonna go around my screen. So actually, Jody, go ahead. Yes?
Yeah, no, I'm good with all with the
Okay.
way it stands as it is right now.
Kia,
I'm good with what we discussed today. and-
yes?
Yep.
Okay, Susan,
Sure. I approve.
great. Diane,
Approved.
Brenda,
Yes.
thank you. So everybody, I'm sorry, Diana?
Oh, I didn't think I was a voting member.
Actually, Diana can't,
Well,
right,
Yeah.
Diana
we
can't
want
vote.
your
I know.
point of view, so
Oh.
just, if there's an issue, now is the
No,
time we need to know.
No, I think it's a great
Okay, fine,
collaborative effort, yes.
great,
Cool.
okay. Preeti, we're good. Sam, thank you.
That's great. So you'll get a map and updated stuff. Do you have any comments on the heading of the map or anything in the PowerPoint that we need to adjust?
I'm a PowerPoint guy, so I did have some thoughts, but didn't want to waste the committee's time on wordsmithing. But if I could shoot you some notes, I'll make it part of the public record. But just some things that I was seeing as we were walking through it tonight, including I think the version you have two different slides. One shows the before, including the ethnic makeup of each of the different districts. You have an after, but they're several slides apart. And I think it would be helpful for people to see almost in a side-by-side view.
Okay.
Do we move from 49.5 to 49.8, or is it something more drastic? Otherwise, people have to jump around to try to figure out if if there's reason for concern. So
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll appreciate your comments and we'll put them in. And hopefully you get a final one that you'd be ready to go with.
Awesome.
Thank you. I would love to have a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I.
We adjourn at 6:56 p.m.
Look at that.
Ah,
Have a nice
Nice.
evening, everybody.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you,
Bye.
Sam and Preeti.
All right.